I know you teach this for people too, so I would love to hear how you started landing your first placements, because I feel like every sync person
Mm-hmm.
is slightly different nowadays, because
Oh yeah.
the world of sync has like gotten so uh, more accessible. At least it's still like there's a little bit of mystery kind of around it, and like there's a little bit of gatekeeping from like an industry level, I would say, in some capacity. But I would love to hear I feel like you're getting weirder and weirder stories nowadays of people just like falling into it in some capacity, you know.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear, but I would love to hear how you kind of went into that and got placed. And yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting too because yeah, when I started like this journey, like from 2016 or so,
Mhm.
it was kind of known, but it was still something that was very it's been a thing that was just going on,
Yeah.
but I was never told that was a viable thing to do in music or told that you could do this.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. So when I started to take like a class, a course, and they did like a live event. It was only like a half day event in LA. I was like sold, booked a ticket to LA. I was like, I'm going there for the weekend. I'm going to go to LA and see what it's like. And through that, I met one library owner I just kind of connected with. And she was super nice. And she was like, yeah, send me stuff. And so I sent stuff and didn't hear anything, literally anything. And I was like, well, I guess she hates my music and
Yeah.
everything that I'm
Yeah.
doing is shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I'm
I think that's
garbage.
like
Yeah.
everybody thinks that because I didn't comprehend like she's getting 300 songs a day. She doesn't hate you. Her time is very limited. She doesn't have time to respond. Hey, Mike, I got the song. Don't worry. I'll listen because her day is inundated with 300 songs 5 days a week, even on the weekend. So she's catching up
Yeah.
and she has to. So the thing was, I just kept on creating stuff. So the year goes by. I don't hear anything. And then I get an email from her saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know this song is going to be used in this show. Just wanted to confirm that it was One Stop. And I was like, yes, it is. I give, 100% thumbs up, all good.
Yep.
And then I got placed. And so that it was literally just a surprise of an email and just like, she didn't hate it. And it's like, it was a
Yeah. Yeah.
validation of
Yeah.
like, she didn't think I sucked. But what was also satisfying was I didn't allow my disappointment to stop me from creating more music.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the mistake people make is they're not getting the responses they want. And it's not that they don't like it. They just don't have the time. And even if they like it, they're not going to tell you, hey, I liked it. I put it off to the side. I'll remember you forever. They're just putting it off into whatever categories and systems they
Yeah.
have. That when the need comes up and if you've done the work, it will show up. You will get
Yeah.
noticed.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
there's something to be said to that consistency factor for like a lot of things, right? I feel like if it's
Mm-hmm.
content, podcasting, songwriting,
Yeah.
sync work, it's like, to be real, your first 100 are probably going to be pretty bad.
Awful.
And I mean, if you're lucky, your first 50 or where you
Mm-hmm.
start to get good, right? And so I, it's not that it's that you're still learning. It's not that well, some of it is that you are just bad and you need to get better. But at the same time, like maybe it's a not yet thing, but she can't just tell you
I
that.
love that. It's that you're not kind of what you said. It's a learning thing, and I think we forget this. Like when we're kids in school, we're so used to learning because, yeah, of
Yeah.
course we don't know the alphabet. We look in, we're like, what the fuck is this?
But
It's like this is gibberish.
we're also used to instant feedback, positive,
Yes.
negative.
Yeah. Yep.
We're
Mm-hmm.
not used to, I'm going to blurt an answer and then 3 days later I'm going to get a response to that answer.
And we're not used to all of that, and we're also not used to. It's the reframing of what we think failure might be. Like if somebody goes like, "Oh, they didn't like it." Yeah, that's not the interesting question. The interesting question is, what did you learn from it? Like, did you get anything out of that? There's a book I always reference. I love. It's called The Gap in the Gain, and it's
Oh,
basically the
great book.
reframing. It's like I could go back and I always think of that. Like before I go, like this. Did I get anything? What is the takeaway?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for all of those 100 songs, there's tons of takeaways that I got.
Yeah.
That it
Yeah.
was like, yeah, it didn't hit the mark. I got people that were like, yeah, this course, but your course didn't hit. What do you
Mhm.
mean it didn't hit? Oh, I just, I didn't set it up. I
Yeah.
just stumbled into it. And then you were just like, I guess this is the chorus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and there's no way to know that without doing it, because it is it's such a feel thing a lot of the time, right? I can tell you how to set up a chorus all day, but until
Yep.
you've gone through the process of building that track yourself and like working on that thing yourself, it is really hard to explain the feeling of nailing a good pre-chorus transition into a chorus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like there's
Yeah.
also this thing where like you spend so much, like music takes a long time to get like good at, you know? So
Hmm.
you spend years getting good, and then finally you like come up with something that sounds like good enough, you know? And then you're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, cool. This means I could do the thing." But then you're like almost surprised that it's not working, you know, or like the songs aren't getting placed, or like the people didn't like your productions, or like whatever. And it's really just because you don't have enough repetition yet. And a lot of times there's just somebody who's simply better. And that's fine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard a big mastering engineer talking about how he lost like the biggest gig of his life to like another mastering engineer that he personally knows. And he was like, "Yeah, I heard his work. He just did a much better job than me."
But how cool is it to get in that place to
Yeah.
know that and be okay with
Yeah,
that?
and it's like that's the only way that you can really move forward in music is if you understand that like of course like someone's going to be better than you and that's fine.
But that's such a mindset thing too, and I think
Hmm.
that's the other thing about music that's so huge that people miss. That I just got, especially like the books that we're talking about, like Gap in the Game, is like personal development and just
Yeah.
like mindset. It is so important because if you don't get that right, everything is going to be so defeatist, and so it's just like you're just going to
A
be like
lot of that
dragging yourself.
is people pinning their self-worth to their musical ability,
Yeah.
and not having their own definition of self-worth outside of music.
Mm-hmm.
uh and I think a lot of that is that it's like, oh, I am a mastering engineer. And so this guy that Josh was talking about is like, I'm a mastering engineer. If he pinned his entire self-worth and existence on the fact that I am the best mastering engineer for every job, he'd have gotten pissed about the fact that somebody beat him over another thing, instead of having the self-confidence and being like, yeah, he was just better than me, and that's okay. I'm gonna probably be better than him on some other projects,
Yeah.
and that's also okay.
The only thing that you could do is make sure that
Yeah.
you treat every project like, you know, the A&R is going to hire their best friend to try to beat you, you know? And it's like, that's really all it
Ooh.
is. Like, as long as you do your best, then, like, you know, you can't even be upset about it.
It's doing your best and just like being a good hang. Like, were
Yeah.
you decent? Because maybe, yeah, you don't get the job. Maybe it's just like they pass you over.
Yeah.
But then for some reason, like a year later, they're like, I met so and so at this thing. I remember we were talking about they were super nice. And I listened, it wasn't bad. I think he'd be a really good, because you're either going to get yes, no, I know someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, those are great answers. I love those.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You get confirmation. No, you get a learning experience. And I know someone. It's another potential of the other two.
Exactly. That's what I love about it. It's just very, and just use them. And more or less, do you still enjoy doing it? If
Mhm.
you do, that's a clear indication you're going to be okay, because you have to enjoy it, because at $0, the process looks like this. At $100, process looks $5,000. The process looks like this.
Yeah.
Do you love it or do you hate it?